Hello, this is Ben Morss from DeepL, and we're here today to talk about AI translation and AI agents, internationalization made easy, or is it? We're going to find out over here. So as I was saying a minute ago, my name is Ben Morss. I'm the developer evangelist at DeepL. It's good to see you all. I guess this is a video, of course, but in fact, this is for the Munich event and API Days, and I have been to Munich before, not in a while. It was last year in 2017. Here you see me with a bunch of people from Google, and we're eating what they call the best doner kebab auf München, and there it is. So yes, good to be back over here again. And oh yeah, that's me over there where the arrow is pointing. So we're talking here about AI agents really, and APIs and translation. And we see this as like the next step in the promise of automation. Like machines made life easier for people, it made jobs easier. Of course, some jobs were taken away. New jobs appeared to replace those jobs. And machines made work easier, made work different. And then computation was the next step with that, making people's lives, again, different and more automation. So the question is, will this change things for translators as AI agents become a thing in the next couple of years? So machine translation made translators' jobs easier and more efficient too. They didn't lose their jobs, they started having new kinds of jobs. Instead of writing here like the translation with a quill pen and ink in paper, see how challenging this is here, according to this beautifully rendered image that AI made for me with the interesting versions of the word internation with multiple numbers of A's in them. It made the job different. Instead of writing translation from scratch, translators were getting a head start by using machine translation to start the work, then checking that work themselves, adding their own expertise to that. So AI agents may provide the next level after that. Here's a currently way this sort of thing looks. This is MemoQ, a popular computer-assisted translation or CAT tool. This gives you a set of phrases to translate, and it will actually, if you want, call a API like DeepL's to get translations for you. It will look for other translations that are similar you've done before, or that your company have done before, put those in the spreadsheet for you too. So it gives you a head start on the translation. The translator can then use their expertise to reject what the machine has done, to modify it, and do more things to it as they want to do. So the question is, again, will agents make this even easier? As computer translation made translation easier for translators and brought the ability to translate to non-experts, will agents provide the next step in that? Let us find out. So first of all, what is an AI agent? It really depends who you ask. People will define this different kinds of ways. I think that for me, thinking about this a lot, listening to lots of people talk about this, it's basically an automated system of some sort that uses an AI model, normally an LLM, to perform specific tasks. So you're making a system of some sort that uses LLM power, but you're asking it to do certain kinds of things and building code around it so it can do those kinds of things. So you may also be giving the model access to external tools, APIs like your own API, and resources, memory, other things so it can do what it needs to do. Oh, there you go, external tools, resources, and memory. So we're going to look here at 3 real-world translation scenarios and see if AI agents can make any of these things easier, more convenient than they already are right now. First, we're talking about, can we actually make translations that LLMs make right now even better by using agentic AI? Can we just improve translations? Number 2, let's say you've got a website that's in one language only, you want to internationalize that. It's kind of a big task. Agents make that easier for you to do. I got to have some water over here. Before going on to number 3, which is automating a translation workflow that translators go through like we described before, making translators' lives easier. Let's look for first at the simplest of these things, making translations just better in general. So we know that NMT made translations better than it had been before, and LLMs made translations even better. Can an agentic approach with the same LLMs make them even better than previously? I mean, if you use an LLM to kind of spend longer on a problem and consider what it's done and try to improve what it's done, can it do a better job than just making a translation in the first place? It's kind of like what you do with a reasoning model, like O3, for example. So if you ask, for example, a reasoning model, in this case, I used Gemini 2.5 Pro because it was free. I used that to ask it to make a translation, make it carefully, and it went through and it made a translation, it thought about it some, reconsidered it, and modified it a little bit. And the result was pretty good. People have said online they've got pretty good results this way, but it's not a very scalable solution. In this case, it took 34 seconds for a single line of English text making it to French, and it burned through 3,068 tokens. So it's promising, but it's not good for like the need for faster translations of lots of text, which is the most common need we see here at DeepL. Another possibility, this is from Andrew Ng, the educator and the AI pioneer, to prompt an LLM to make a translation and then send the translation back to the LLM with a prompt asking it to reflect on that translation and find ways to improve it, and then sending that translation and those suggestions back to the LLM, prompting it, hey, take these suggestions to make improvements on what you've done. So essentially asking the LLM to do what I showed you before, but more explicitly, make a translation, think about it, look for ways to improve it, and then try it again with those improvements in mind. You can see one of the prompts they used. They prompted the LLM to ask for ways to improve it. There's accuracy, just simple, are there things that are wrong about it? Fluency, are there grammar mistakes, punctuation mistakes? Are things repeated in ways that would seem illogical to a human being? As a style, it seemed like it seems natural, and is cultural context appropriate? Is terminology appropriate? And the results were, they said, sometimes interesting, sometimes really exciting, sometimes not really that great. And you said, hey, we should explore this further and see if we can make it any better. People are doing that now. In fact, this is a paper from this year where someone tried this. This fellow over here made a system with 4 different agents to do translation differently. So it looked kind of like this. They took a source text over here, they fed it to a translator, and then other agents reviewed that for fluency, as discussed before. Does it read well or read naturally? Does it follow the language's usual norms and conventions? Does it feel natural to a reader? Adequacy, does it actually fulfill the purpose the translation was made to have? And does it actually have the right kind of style? Is it meeting the expectations the reader would have? And finally, all those things go to an editor agent, which then puts all those things together, makes a final translation. I think they didn't actually fine tune the agents for these things. I think they prompted it, and maybe fine tuning would make different kinds of results. The results that they got were, too many slides, were not too bad. They found that it was in GPT-4, it did worse than Google Translate and DeepL after all that work. With DeepSeek R1, a little better, but it's kind of a strange comparison because, in fact, they use DeepL's API in a way that makes us use our old neural models instead of our new LLMs, which are better. So in other words, with this approach, they did better with certain AI models and our old non-LLM models, but they didn't try it against our LLM models for this paper. So this is really a work in progress. Next over here, a more complicated task to think if we can use agents to internationalize a single language website. What does this mean? Well, let's say you have a new company out there, you made a website, it's going very well, but you made this yourself or with a friend in your own native language, maybe you even vibe coded it, and you hard coded all the strings right there in your React because why not? And now you're getting customers in other countries who can't read your website, and you want to internationalize it, serve it in different kinds of languages. So how would you do that? Well, you take these strings over here and you want to replace these strings with something you can code, and you can script to make it international. So in this case, the standard thing to do in JavaScript is to assign each of those strings to an ID, like a key of some sort. So in this case, we replaced welcome to our website with the header welcome key, and the click below thing there with this click enticement, and the button text over there, click or get it forever, with the more general CTA button. We then wrap those in a function called T, which is a common name for the function you would use to call this library you've incorporated to then translate those into the language that's desired, and then serve the website, hopefully caching it in those languages. So you also need to, of course, then make a JSON file for each language, which maps those keys to the translation for the desired language. So can agent do all those things? Here's the plan again. You have to add code and packages for internationalization. You have to search through all of your React files for the strings, and then give each string a unique ID, replace each string with this formula T parenthesis, quote, Y, quote, parenthesis, translate each string into all the languages that you want, build up the JSON files for each language, and then you're done. And there you go. So you can build an agent to do this. You have to give it a few tools to make this possible. For one, it's got to be able to access your local file system if you're really doing this locally, or likely something like GitHub or some system where you've got your code stored. So there are, in fact, MCPs and APIs you can have an agent use to access the local file system, or to even make a branch on GitHub and to make the new files you need to do and to modify existing files. You need a translation API. There are MCPs for those too. We have one at DeepL, for example. And then finally, a synthetic tool you make yourself to accumulate this IDs map over here. Because the agent is going to have any kind of memory or way to remember all of these things, you write code to remember these things yourself in your own code, and just give it a tool that tells the agent, hey, after you find a string, you should then make this mapping over here, send this to the tool, and then do the next one. And this tool will then send information back to us. We'll accumulate all these things into a big database. I need some more water over here, sorry. So of course, also, code can do all these things too. You could write code to look for all your strings, code to call the API, and code to make this map over here. Make the IDs, make the map. So why use an agent at all for this task? Well, there's a few reasons you might want to do this. First of all, it's less coding work, hopefully, unless you make the agent pretty poorly, but you should be able to save time by making an agent, which is a more general purpose agent with these tools, and then prompting it to do most of the work. Also, flexibility is important. In coding, you're writing code to do something, it's often pretty fragile. For example, in this case, we write the code probably just to look for strings in our React files. What if there's code other places? What if there's strings other than the config files and other kinds of files? You wouldn't find those things at all. What if you're just looking around for things that are in quotes in React files, find things that are not really, in fact, strings that are translatable, other kinds of things you've used for your code, which is quite possibly the case. So, or you actually have strings buried in the code itself, like, hey, message, logged in, question mark, check out now, colon, please log in to check out. So for all these reasons, you get more flexibility out of an agent. And yes, in real world, of course, you might need more than this MVP over here. You might need something more complicated to do. And it's also possible that you'll get more out of MCPs than APIs. So ideally, you'll give the agent tools and prompts, and it kind of just does the rest by itself. In fact, in real life, you'll find if you've tried this, as I've been trying this for the last little while, it does some things the way you would expect. Some things will surprise you. Agents kind of look very, very smart, never tiring junior person who just won't know quite what you want all the time, doesn't really know your own goals all the time. So you have to really have humans involved in things. So for example, you have to add code and packages for internationalization. Humans should choose the packages that they want and they can use for maintainability and for their own preference. And looking through all the JSX files for strings, humans are going to have to look and make sure you haven't chosen the wrong strings or there aren't strings elsewhere. You'll have to go through those files and modify them, probably by hand, to make sure they're the right things. Accumulating the string, you want to make sure that the right ones once again. The identifiers that it chooses, it might choose strange identifiers. There could be duplicates, even if we tried to look for that. So you want to double check all those kinds of things. You want to look for kinds of mistakes it might make when replacing mechanically a string X with T of Y. Although for an agent, it should be able to recognize when it's not actually writing real code. And of course, translations, you'll want to have your eye on those, make sure the translations are what you want. So really, you have to have humans in every step over here to make sure it's done the right thing. So you shouldn't rely on the agent to do like the final job for you. The agent is just giving you a really good first draft, and you have to go through yourself and do things it might miss, or reprompt it accordingly to do things that it might not have noticed before. Especially this little step over here, I mentioned translating the strings into all desired languages. Well, in that case, you probably want a human to be involved in that too, because machines translate things well, often as good as humans, but what if it isn't as good as humans? What if it makes a strange mistake because it's actually just a machine or lacks the context in what things are? For example, the word close by itself, a close button, it could think, oh, that means close, or it could mean, oh, it's close to something. You would know that because you know it's a button. You may not have told the agent to know that as well. So it's better to have a human involved in the translations too. So in that mind over there, it's actually a bigger workflow. It's better if you can accumulate a spreadsheet with all of the translations that the machines have made, and then have humans review it, and then let the agent stick that in JSON files once humans have reviewed the work. So there really is actually a workflow buried in over here. This one thing, a whole different workflow. So you want to have actually some sort of spreadsheet integration, like Google Sheets integration. And this is a case where making an agent seems better and better, because spreadsheets, you can script the spreadsheet. Every spreadsheet program out there that's major, Google Sheets, Excel, has an API or it has app scripts, but it's also brittle. Or if somebody adds a new column or moves things around, that's a thing humans can easily notice. And if you write code saying, look in column B for this, column C for this, it could actually miss those things. There's a case where it might be useful to actually use an agent which is intelligent and recognizes where things are all by itself. It's also good to have an MCP in this case. Agents can use MCPs. If you're using Google Sheets, for example, the API you use is pretty complicated. AppScript is pretty complicated as well. The MCPs out there are nice because agents can use them, and they give you certain tools that are logical tools you want to use, higher level tools. This is an example here from Composio's Google Sheets MCP server that they made or they use. I find their MCP is often quite nice. And here they have functions like add sheet and delete a dimension, delete sheet. There's things later on you can't see in the screenshot for adding, of course, data. Basically, they found some basic functionality you might want to use to expose as tools. So again, the agent will still need your help to check its work over here, to give it guardrails so it doesn't go off the rails and start making more changes to your code than you expected and get inspired to do more things. And the final draft really falls to you to make. Some more water over here. Now we'll go to the final stage over here, automating a whole translation workflow. This is especially interesting, I think, we saved it for last because it really resembles other kinds of things you might want to do in the office. Often office jobs involve drudgery. I mean, not because your job is boring, because there's things you have to do that are not that exciting, that involve copying this thing from there to there, making a ticket from here to here, putting things together in various ways that are kind of manual, not that exciting. Ideally, if these are things you could imagine a computer could be told how to do, now AI agents could do those things too. So we're going to return to this task over here of translating each string to all desired languages. We found that you can make this a little better by actually having humans review it, by having the computer, the agent in this case, make translations into a spreadsheet, have humans review the translations, and then modify them, and then tell them that it's done, upload them again. So that makes things a little better. But actually, in real translation, it's often a lot more involved than this. For example, translators may want, oh, this slide isn't quite done over here. All right, interesting. We're gonna have to stop this talk because I think we're at the point where the slides are not actually done. So I'm going to ask the people to delete this talk over here. All right, thank you, people.